Welcome to Wisdom on the Front Porch, the original think tank, where wisdom, laughter, friendship, and ingenuity are shared by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Wisdom on the Front Porch. And sitting on my front porch today, we're going to talk with Frank about investing in property because it's good to have an income. It's good to know what to do with it so we can have a bigger income. So Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Our goal is we like to go out and purchase property, but obviously we do it for income, but the one thing we actually like to do is serve people. People get into this business with the idea of let's go do deals, let's make money, but what we have found is the biggest blessings actually come from the helping people side of it. You know, after a while, the house is a house, but the ability to help people, work with people, solve their challenge, that becomes the very rewarding part of it, and really the much more meaningful part of it, regardless of what strategy we're executing.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's, surfing really helps. You get further in life because you're helping everybody get where they need to go.
Yeah, for sure.
What's one of your biggest struggles working with real estate? Is it finding the properties? Is it buying it? Is it getting all the permits? What's the major thing that you have to watch out for, I guess?
Yeah, I think these days the hardest part is, back when I started, we were able to do a lot of business pretty easily. But, since then, we've had things like Zillow come on. Zillow's a household name now.
Yeah.
You have, people are more educated now. That doesn't mean they're real estate experts, but they are certainly more educated on some basics. And all of those are good things. I think the problem is real estate is often pitched as a very simple business, and in a way it is, but in a lot of ways it really isn't. It is a business, but unfortunately you have a lot of people involved in it that they view it as a get rich quick thing. Maybe not even get rich quick, just kind of solve my problem quick, without really realizing the effort and the time, and that it's not a strategy, it's an actual business. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't. Most people who get involved in this business do not stick around for very long. We've found that roughly 80+% of people who get involved are out of it within a couple of years. Well, you don't have to get licensed to be in it if you're just going to do investing. You can just wake up one day and decide, let's do it. And so if it doesn't work, you'll try to do another thing. Well, when you have a lot of people do that, what happens is the landscape gets very cluttered.
Right.
And so I think the biggest thing as a result is today, a lot of people that sincerely need help have a bit of a jaded view because, they have gotten 30 phone calls, right? All saying more or less the same thing. But then a lot of those people are really not in a position to actually solve the problem. So that just creates a lot of frustration with people. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to sit down. This is a great example of with a lady who called our office and said, hey, we'd love to sell our house. I went and met her in person because it was fairly close by. And I actually told her, I said, you don't really want our offer. Which of course she kind of stopped, and I was like, and I told her that we're not the best solution for you. First of all, we would not be able to pay off your mortgage because the difference would be too high.
Right.
The property needed some work, but it was in a good enough position where her best solution would be to put it on the market with a realtor. That was her best solution. And so I made that recommendation to her. And it was really cool because then she actually told me about some of the other options that she was receiving. And I sat there and I said, well, I could make you that option as well, but here's why it probably won't work.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
I basically just told her, this is the reality of your situation. You could go try to put a square peg in a round hole with one of the others. That is her choice. But, we believe that in her scenario, listing was the best scenario to get her the best outcome. And I walked out of that and I felt great because I was like, we didn't get the deal. We would never buy the deal.
Right.
But, we referred it to a realtor and said, hey, and if you want to use them, great. If you want to use someone else, we're not going to get upset with you. In fact, after this recording today, I'm going to be sending her a contractor to help with a couple of things she needs.
Oh, nice.
And just, and that's what I enjoy. It's the value add. And I think that's the part that's missed, because a lot of people will say, well, you want to add value to people. Great. The problem is most people's idea of adding value is, how can I add in a value where I benefit?
Right.
Versus how do you add value in a way where you may not get anything in return?
Absolutely. I love that. And I want to make clear that what you are is not a real estate agent. Some people don't understand the difference there. Is, yes, you buy and sell properties, but not as a real estate agent. So maybe clarify that a little bit for our listeners, for our audience.
Yeah, so I do real estate investing. I'm the actual buyer. So I will have agents, sometimes they represent us, sometimes they don't. But most real estate agents don't buy and sell property. In fact, it's a very, very small number of them actually do that part of the process. I don't know the exact number, but the vast majority simply do not do that. In fact, the vast majority of agents in 2025, it was well publicized on the National Association of Realtors report for 2025, said 71% didn't do any transactions.
Oh, wow.
So not only do most of them not buy and sell property, 71% of them didn't do anything in 2025. So, let that number sink in. That's a lot. And so, real estate agents, their job is to represent buyers and sellers, to ensure that they get, a quality deal, a fair deal that's reasonable for both parties. That's their job. Our job as investors is we're going in there with the intention to solve problems that not only help the seller, but have the potential for profitability. Because again, it's a business and business is not charity.
Right.
And we're very transparent about that with sellers. Like, we have, like the lady I met with yesterday, I said, I can't make you a cash offer on this property ethically because there's no way we would make money. And we are a business. It's just not going to happen. So I'm going to respectfully decline. And she was not in a position to write, a big check to balance it. And quite frankly, most sellers don't want to go to closing to write checks. So
Right. That's
it
right.
happens every now and then, but it's pretty rare, right?
Right.
So
And I think that's what made the difference too for you. You didn't just say, no, we don't want it, and walked away. You let her know why, and then you offered a solution. Here's a real estate agent that might be better. I know the real estate agent we ended up going with when we bought our home here was an older gentleman who'd been in the business, since in his early 20s. And he knew how to help people find what they wanted. He didn't just say, you want a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom? Okay, here, I'll list all the 3-bedroom, 4-bedrooms in the area you want. We'll just go see them all. It's like, no, he went a little bit deeper. It's like, well, what are you looking for specifically? Are you looking for something with a neighborhood and a good school? All of that stuff. And sometimes real estate agents ask that too. But he kind of went above and beyond. Do you want something you can do a little repair on? Do you want something that is just ready to move in? You don't want to deal with anything. He went beyond that. And then he didn't just, okay, we sold you the house, bye, see you later. It was, are you doing okay in your house? Are there any issues? When we had a problem with the heater going out, he helped us negotiate with our, I don't know, whatever it was that we bought with the house, the insurance stuff that comes with it, to make sure that we got the right thing that we needed. And which was really great because it ended up they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And because he'd been in the business a while, he would tell me, this is what they're supposed to do. This is what it says in your contract. And so I was able to help work with that. And it was just little things, that make a big difference. I remember him telling me about a young gentleman that he helped getting his first house. Little tiny thing, didn't matter. But he was so happy with it that when he was ready to get something bigger, he called the same real estate agent again. And in order to get what he really wanted. And he told other people about it. Now, referrals are great, but when you've got someone that is going to go above and beyond, it makes a huge difference. And I see that that's what you did. You didn't just say, no, this isn't what we're going to do. You said, no, this isn't what we do. This is what you can do, though. And here's some names, to go with it. So you just didn't leave her hanging there. And a lot of people do that. And I don't think they realize that they do that. So it's great to have that kind of attitude. And I think for any business you have, that's the attitude you need. It's like, I can't help everybody, but who do I know that can help this person with what they're doing? And I'm glad that you do that.
I appreciate it. And it's the difference between, in the early days, I think most people looked at this business transactionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's natural, right? Because you're learning the mechanics, you're learning, the dots, the I's and the T's and those sorts of things. So there is a period where you got to learn those mechanics, and there's a lot of mechanics to it. You're like, oh, real estate's easy. Yeah. Try building a house. You'll never say that again. So it's not easy. There's a lot, literally thousands of decisions go into building one structure. It's a lot of work. When you really truly break it down, it's eye-opening. But once you get past the mechanics, right, kind of like riding a bike, right, you're learning the balance. But once you learn how to balance, you don't have to work so hard thinking about balance. The training wheels go off. Now you're improving skills. What we've learned with real estate is it's really about the people.
Mm-hmm.
The best advice I've gotten in all these years I've been involved in business, it came from a billionaire that I had the chance. We went down to his house a couple years ago. One of my coaches arranged for a meeting at his house with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And he said, this is probably the best piece of advice I've ever heard. And it's only 3 words. That was the crazy thing. It was the simplest, most powerful advice. And he just said, business is people.
Yeah.
He's like, that's it. Just if you can get that in the core of your spirit as a business owner, it changed. Like, so now if you're working with a third party, it's the person. If you have an employee, it's the person. If it's a contractor, it's the person. A seller, a buyer, whoever, it's the person. And it just changes your approach to everything. And I started looking back at all the years I did, and I said, and I asked this question, every time something went wrong, was I looking at it transactionally?
Oh, that's a good thought. Yeah.
And by the way, the answer was often yes. So it was just such a humbling way to look at it. If no matter what goes right or wrong, right, because you're going to have both. You're going to have things go right and have things go wrong. Are we first focused on the person before the outcome or the transaction? First and foremost, the person. And that was a big mental shift. It's still a shift, right? It's, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert at it yet. It's a constant work in progress. But it really allows me to look at things differently. And another friend of mine he's invested for many years. He always says something that I think is fun that kind of goes along with it. He's like, he doesn't even worry about the results.
Oh.
He's like, he only worries about process. He's like, if you just focus on process and process alone, the results will come.
Oh, that's interesting.
He literally teaches people pay zero. I'm not going to say zero, but don't worry about the outcome. It's all about fall in love with the process, and that's it. The rest will take care of itself. And when you think about it, if you're focused on the process, what does the process usually involve? People. Almost every time. It's almost, it's that person that's doesn't understand this. It's that person that's cautious about this. It's that person that doesn't trust whatever. It's that person that's worried about something that has a 1% chance of happening, but they think that it's a 99%, right? Like it's all these things, but it all just goes back to people. And so that's really been the biggest shift for our business in recent years is people, 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 and how can I make sure that I'm not chasing a house? I'm looking for people that want to work with people.
Yeah, that's
And
really
and
good.
they understand that when you work with people, it's not a straight line upward. There's some waves because we're all people and people do the wildest of things.
And that's good. I'm glad you brought that up because I want to ask about the difficult people, the people who don't understand what's going on, the people who are trying to get what they want, a good home, place to live where they're going to be happy, raise their family, or just, live for a few years. And things just don't seem to be going right for whatever reason. Something's going wrong. And so they get frustrated, which is understandable. Everybody gets frustrated. So, how do you handle the situation where you can tell that your buyer is really getting frustrated because things are just not lining up? How do you manage something like that?
So you mentioned buyer, and I would say it's the same for seller,
Right.
either side, or really anybody in any transaction. That it always starts with being a really good listener and not trying to project what you think somebody is doing. The reality is, we live in a very judgmental society. And it's only gotten more judgmental because of the advent of social media, right? You see people post things and everyone's an armchair quarterback expert at everything. And now we have AI, so now we're like super experts at things that Chat GPT really doesn't make you an expert. I mean, it does give you some good information, but if you think that makes you a knowledgeable expert, bad things are in your future, just so you know. But the reality is, you have to effectively be the opposite of that. You have to be a great listener and not judge anything. Like, and if you and people will say, "Well, I don't judge." Yeah, right.
Whether we
Yeah, I
mean it
mean,
or not, we do.
yeah, everybody does. It's not being non-judgmental is very difficult.
Hmm.
It's very because we all have different upbringings of what we think is right and wrong and what's our belief structure and la da da da. But so I've had to learn, just don't prejudge anything. Like see things for what they are and be a really good listener.
Right.
I did a speaking course, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago now. And I had to give a 7-minute speech on a subject, and I chose the subject of listening. And what I found very fascinating was if you walk into your average bookstore today, Barnes and Noble, for example, there's, of course, hundreds, if not thousands, of self-help books. We all know this, right? Anyone in business knows this, right? Or if you go to Amazon, right? Pick any subject. So I went to the books. Actually, no, what I did is I went on Amazon and I typed in the word listening, right? Like anybody could do this right now. Just type in listening, in the book section. You're going to go maybe 2, 3 pages, and then they're going to start repeating. There was not that many.
Oh, wow.
So I said, this doesn't sound right. So I literally got in the car and I went physically to Barnes and Noble. because I'm like, surely there's more books on listening. And I spoke with the service person there and I said, hey, where's your books on listening? Oh, they're in, whatever section it was. So I go over there, there's hardly anything.
Wow.
I mean, it's row after row. In Barnes and Noble, there's probably 5 or 6, rats 8 stories high on self-help books. There was hardly any books there. And I thought to myself, isn't this interesting that we have so many books on how to help ourselves, but still we probably need more than anything else, there was so little written about.
Wow. That surprises me, actually.
I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to check it out. See, it might be 4 pages on Amazon now. This was a couple years ago. But again, compared to the amount of other subjects, it's minuscule. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is arguably the most important thing is how well do you listen? So when you say, how do I work with difficult people? The best thing I can do to serve them is just shut up and listen and really listen and ask questions that not only make them comfortable to speak, but to speak openly so that there's a real chance that we can serve them.
Yes. Yeah. So what are some of the skills of listening that you've noticed? What does it mean to listen to somebody?
That's a great question. It's so simple. And I'm like, wow, that's a great question. It's so simple that it's not simple. And I think I hit on it a minute ago. First of all, you don't prejudge, right? Like, as I mentioned, you don't try to read into anything they say.
Right.
Right. It's natural to read into things. Classic example, I like college football. Oh, look, that football team has, 10 5-star recruits. So the natural thing to read into that is, oh, well, they're going to be great because of that. But that doesn't speak to how well they're going to be coached, how well are they, how receptive they are to growth, how well do they work together, what kind of environment were they the prodigy on a bad team or were they in a great team? Like you don't know any of that. But yet you prejudge, oh, well, that team's gonna have all these great recruits, therefore they must be great. Well, there's only one champion every year. So obviously that is not always the case. And we all know that sometimes teams are disappointing, imagine, right? Right. So I think it's similar with people is we really can't read into anything. Oh, well, they said this, therefore your brain starts formulating, well, then this. But in reality, I have found a couple of things. One, when a person speaks their heart to you, even if they're super transparent, you're probably getting 1% of the story.
Oh, wow.
And the reason is very simple. There's a litany of reasons and life experiences they have that led them to that position. There's no way you're going to know all of that. You'd be there for weeks. To truly know the whole story takes weeks, if you're lucky. And that's assuming they even remember, because how many people make decisions, they don't even know why they're making it. It's just autopilot, right? So when you really break a person down, we're very complex. So you just have to know that they're going to share what they share, but you're at best, you're only going to get a piece of the story, at best. And then you have to decide what to do with that information. So the goal is really not to get the whole story. The goal is to get the pieces of the story that are relevant to the situation at hand so that you can be a value add. And with difficult people, in my opinion, most difficult people are difficult because they don't feel heard. They had an experience where they did not feel truly heard.
Right.
And it helped create a pattern on how they handle it, and you, as the listener, are now the recipient of that. But I find that if you take the time to really hear out a difficult person, some of those people truly turn out to be really amazing people that they just want to be heard. They just want someone to make them feel valued.
I agree with that. And there's I'm getting a team together for this October on how to handle the difficult questions that come in, whether it's from your kids, like, why does everybody else get to do this and I don't? Or whether it's from a spouse, it's like, why are you doing this again? We just went over this, and different things like that. But one of the things that one of the people, unfortunately, isn't going to be able to attend, says they want to find out, does the person that is being difficult, that's asking the difficult questions, that have they never been taught how to ask the question correctly? Because they've always been shut down. They've never been able to ever ask their question, what they really want to know, what's going on inside of them. And you kind of alluded to this too. Maybe sometime I've never been heard, so I don't know how to be heard without being forceful or being angry or just shutting down and not responding at all. I mean, that's one of the harder ones, is when you're asking a question and they don't have a response for you. They don't know what to say.
Well, and there's a lot of truth to that, and I like to liken it to something I heard at a church service a year ago.
Okay.
I say there's church pastors out there, and then there's the people that actually move people.
Right.
They're not the same. They're not the same. I'm a very deep man of faith, and I understand why the church gets a bad rap. Large or small doesn't matter.
Right.
Just there's certain people that just understand how to communicate. So this particular pastor, his wife said something that really struck me, because he mentioned something about that, a difficult question. And she said, there is no such thing as a difficult question. So of course, that's wait a minute, I'm sorry, what'd you say? Can you repeat that? She said the only reason a question is difficult is because of your perspective or attitude toward it. She's like, a question is just a question. It's only difficult because of the experiences, the situation, whatever. So if you can take a very objective point of view toward a question, you take a lot of the fire out of it.
Okay.
And it was very powerful. And I was like, there's a lot of truth to that. Because if you believe that there's no such thing as a difficult question, it makes it a lot easier to do one simple thing. And that's, well, then just speak the truth.
Right.
Because the answer to every question, there's probably a truth at the end of it, of some kind. Right. And it gets us back to, these are the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can talk about facts without judgment, our ability to actually solve a problem skyrockets.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you get the emotion away from it and get the judgment away from it. I think you have a much better outcome on that. And we have to watch ourselves. Are the questions they're asking, or the way they're asking it, is it triggering something in us? Just in a meeting last night, they say there's a gap between the time something is triggered and when you react. There's actually a gap there. And in that gap, you need to choose, how am I going to react to this? Excuse me. And some people think, well, there's not enough time to choose. But there is, because we get to do that. We get to choose that there's time to do that. So if you have a question or you have someone coming at you that's angry, or you can tell they're just frustrated, take a moment and say, well, what is frustrating them? What is making them angry? And like you're saying, listening to the question that they're asking. Is this something that has been repeated? Are they, they just want a simple answer, like you said, to be heard, and nobody's listening. What can you do to listen to them, to hear what they're saying?
And also understand that some people ask what is perceived as an angry question just to instigate, right? Like some people are instigators, right? They're trying to provoke you. But again, it's not about being provoked. It's, when that happens, it's reading past that. And I love what you said about waiting. Like one of the things, like in real estate, you're always dealing with lawyers, right? It's just, right, just they want to make sure all the documents are good. And some of the things I learned was anytime you talk to a lawyer, just take what they say and just pause for a moment and be okay with silence, and really process, what was I really just asked? A super simplistic way to look at it is the game of Simon Says.
Oh,
Think about Simon Says, right? Simon says, touch your nose, pat your head, rub your stomach, whatever. And then but what happens? The person inevitably starts going quicker, and then they change the statement without saying Simon Says, but you do it. Right? Like we've all been there. And then they're like, oh, got you. And then you're out of the game. But life is kind of the same way. It's like we think we know what's coming next, but rather the power is stop, pause, and process. And yes, let the emotion dissipate if it's an emotionally charged situation. Absolutely, let his emotional mess everything up. Right? Just let it dissipate. Now, what's really being asked here?
right.
Right. Like my wife has done it to me many times. I'll be like, and she's like, stop. This was the question. Right. Okay. That and most of the time, it's a lot simpler than we as people tend to make things.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. My husband and I actually went to counseling in our earlier years of marriage, and we found that a lot of times we were funneling the question through our brain and our experiences instead of taking the question at face value, and that made a huge difference. So we were told to just stop, ask the question back, is this what you mean? Are you saying this? And most of the time it's like, no, my brain didn't even go there. Where does that come from? So once you start realizing that the person on the other side is not your enemy, is not purposely trying to trip you up or something, and that they have a genuine concern that comes from something in their background, then you don't take everything, one, so personally, and two, you start hearing what they're actually saying instead of filtering it, putting all these other things in it, like you were saying earlier. Huge difference.
Yeah, I wish schools, instead of forcing you to learn years of things that we don't remember anymore, it's like, wouldn't it be great if in high school, for example, you were forced, like it was just required 8 semesters of how to be a good communicator?
Oh,
That would
wow.
change the world. It would change the world.
Yeah. Because being a great communicator means you're listening to what people are wanting, what they need to be heard. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's hard. Listening is one of the hardest skills, and yet there's so little written about it. So so it just blows me away. And listening does not have to be hard. We're just conditioned growing up to listen to ourselves and look for the voices that affirm us to make us think we're right. And we just naturally are going to go find everybody that supports our position, so that there's no way we could possibly be wrong. Absolutely not. And then what happens? We find ways to justify things that are borderline insane.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want to change the subject because I really love talking about this, but I do want to find out if, well, and a lot of people are trying to invest, so they've always got more money coming in. They want to make sure that they're handling their finances correctly. So when it comes to real estate, things like that, what are some of the investments that we should look at or be aware not to do somewhere in there?
So every real estate vehicle out there works. So whether you buy houses, condos, multifamily, commercial, whether it's, office buildings, industrial, they all work. So it's not even a question of which one is better than the other. Because people say, well, this is better than this because, and when someone says it's better, it's always some financial reason. But the reality is everyone has a set of needs inside of them that may not be their skill set. That might not be what they're built for. Perfect example. Somebody who is great at hospitality probably would not like new construction of single family homes because there's nothing hospitable about that. It's a lot of work, whether you do it, on a single level or a neighborhood level, right? What is hospitality? That's like people doing Airbnb, right? You have a property that is servicing people, 12, 20, 50 times a year, whatever it is. I tell people, when you're in Airbnb, you're in the hospitality business.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a person built with that's their strength, that's their passion, that's what they love, that's probably the strategy they should pursue because it lines up with their strengths. Okay. Another common thing is people see the commercials, say, oh yeah, fix and flip, it'll change your life, generational wealth, blah, blah, blah. The reality is fix and flip is a very messy business. It's as incredibly people heavy. So if you don't have a thick skin, that is not for you. And unfortunately, that is what happens. A lot of people get into it thinking it's easy, and they do one or two, and they're like, never again.
Yeah. It only takes you half an hour on TV. It should be easy.
Right. Half an hour on TV, that accounted for 0.01% of what really happens.
Right.
You saw the entertainment highlight. But if you have a passion for it, it's great. But then people will make the mistake of, well, if it worked for me, it'll work for everyone else. No, it will not work for everyone else because people are built differently. So I tell people that the thing to do is don't pick a strategy because it sounds good. Figure out what's most important to you. And then let's find a strategy that works with your strengths so you have the highest chance of success coming out of the gate. And it may not be what you thought it was going to be. In fact, I will say it often is not what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's really good. The other thing is, how do they make sure that they're making the right deal? Because there's so much available out there. I mean, you could buy commercial property, you could do duplexes because you get better tax breaks on them. Or fourplexes or apartment buildings instead of just single homes. But I mean, there's so much out there. How do you know that? I guess what are some safeguards that people can use to make sure that they're not getting into something that they don't realize what's really going on?
So it's a delicate balance, right? Because you can over information yourself to death and never take action, which is what a lot of people do. Or you could take reckless action and and it's like, well, I just want to learn along the way. Well, you can do that too, but you can do that to a fault. So there's a balance in there. And by the way, that balance point will not be the same from person to person.
Right.
The biggest problem I found with a lot of real estate education is we're trying to create boxes that don't exist. For one simple reason, there's this variable called people. And as long as people are involved, there's no box. It's a constant moving target because everybody's different. But what I can tell people is when you look at a piece of real estate to buy, and quite frankly, it doesn't have to be real estate, it could be anything. But if I'm going to go buy real estate, I'm going to see a property and someone on the other side of the transaction, what is their job? Maybe it's the homeowner, maybe it's an agent, maybe it's a broker. Their job is to sell.
Right.
So they're on the sales side of the table. And when you're in sales, what's your job? You want to make it look like the best thing possible. That's your job. People get so mad at salesmen. I'm like, why are you mad at the salesperson? They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're trying. If you were in their shoes, you'd do the same thing. Like, no one rose up and says, you know what, I want to undercut myself to not make money as a salesperson. Like, nobody says that. Like, they're doing their job. Don't get mad at them. Now, they may not be good at their job, but understand they're still doing their job. You as the buyer, however, are going to buy a piece of property and there's going to be risk associated. Mm-hmm. Well, they're not going to sell you on risk, because if they tell you the risk, they're probably not being the best salesperson. Like, they might, some people will share the risk, most will not. They'll say, oh, that's your side of the table, due diligence as a buyer.
Right. Right.
Which is true, right? As a buyer, it's your job to do your due diligence, because no one's going to do it for you. That's your job. At the end of the day, you're the decision maker. You're the one spending the money. You got to do your due diligence. And so on the buy side of the table, what I've learned is you can recognize the sales side, which we're going to call the best case scenario. Mm-hmm. That's what the salesperson's selling you, the best case scenario. Almost rarely is that not the case. But then there's what's called the worst case scenario. What could happen if I buy this and, lots of things go wrong. And then there's the most likely. And I need to make a decision. What's the worst case? Can I survive the worst case? Identify the most likely, because that's probably where you'll end up. But the worst case, can I survive the worst case? One of my coaches, a gentleman named J.T. Fox, he put it in his book this way. He was talking about some billionaires that basically were like, when you underwrite a deal, you're making a decision, do I want this? It's not how much money I'm going to make first. It's, can I survive the worst case? Mm-hmm. If I can survive the worst case, okay, now we can look at the profitability. But before most people, well, again, sales, they're selling profitability. They're not selling where they're selling profit. This deal will make this will make, you got to take, high risk, high reward, right? It's a great way to get in trouble, right? So, anyway, that's their job. I'm not mad at them for it. But my coaches, and then he'd shared this I like billionaire advice. If you're a billionaire, you probably know a few things. This particular gentleman's like, when I look at a deal, the first thing I want to know is, can I survive the worst case?
Wow.
And I was like, that makes a lot of sense, right? Right. And then if the deal doesn't work, it doesn't mean you quit. It means, no, I just got to negotiate a better deal. Oh, and by the way, negotiation is probably the most powerful skill in business. Mm-hmm. Because everything we do in life to some degree is a negotiation.
Right.
So that's what I tell people is you can do whatever you want in investing. Understand there's a best case, a worst case, and a most likely. Can you survive the worst case? If you can't, negotiate a better deal till you can, and then you worry about profitability.
Yeah.
Because here's what we all know about life if we've been around for a while. The worst case does happen every now and then.
does. That's for sure. But not always, you know. I like that you said the most likely, what's most likely going to happen. But you have examined the worst case, you know. So that's good to do. So how do people get a hold of you? What if they want to know more?
Yeah, I mean, my website, frankiglesias.com. You can call us. We answer our phone, 678-408-2228. If you leave us a voicemail, we actually do check it. I know it's like weird for some of the voicemail. Well, it's still a thing. So yeah, if we don't pick up, by all means, leave a voicemail, text us. You can email us, info@workingwithhouses.com. Social media, of course. I mean, we're pretty easy to find. So yeah,
That's excellent.
happy to help people. And I tell people, if you got a real estate problem, I also do coaching and mentoring.
Oh, good.
I do a 20-minute call for free for people just to help people. If you got a problem, call me, let's chat. If it can be something more, great. If you just need help, again, we love to serve. So we're good with that too.
That's awesome. Frank, thank you so much. This has been so informative of running a business, but also dealing with real estate, investing, and people. I really liked our conversation.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed our time together. Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation too. We thank you for pulling up a chair with us on the front porch. So we'll see you next time.
Don't just listen. Join the conversation. Tell us what you're building, what's challenging you, and what you've discovered along the way. Your question could inspire an entire episode, and your experience might be exactly the encouragement someone else needs. We'll save you a seat on the porch.
Subscribe, ring the bell, like, and share the wisdom.